The Super Bowl a few days away. We got the NBA trade deadline just 2 days away. Everyone's got their eyes on the Greek Freak in Milwaukee. And then I wake up this morning to find out from Shams' Twitter feed that I've been looking in the wrong part of the country. I should have been looking out in L.A. because he has a developing story. Shams, for folks who are just getting up this morning, what is the very latest on James Harden?
Greeny, James Harden and the Los Angeles Clippers are working together to find a potential trade out of L.A. by Thursday's NBA trade deadline. And I'm told the Cleveland Cavaliers are one of the most serious suitors for Harden. The sides are discussing a Harden for Darius Garland swap. And this has all come about in the last few days. James Harden and the Clippers have been discussing his future, whether there's a long-term fit there, because he's got a mutual option in his contract for next season that gives the abilities for both sides to see, is there a longer-term deal there? And there are no promises for either side after this season. So now they're seeing, is there a beneficial path where the Clippers could end up with a young player moving forward, and can James Harden find a place where he has a longer-term deal, as well as the ability to compete for a championship? An important note in all this, James Harden has a de facto no-trade clause, so he has some control over his future.
I'm just looking at his numbers. For those who have not been following it this year, he's averaging over 25 points and 8 assists a game. So big perk for people wondering at 36, is James Harden still a difference maker, someone who might make a difference in that Eastern Conference? What is the answer?
Hell yeah, he is. Hell yeah. Look, he elevates any team that's knocking at the door of being a title contender, a legit title contender. He has become one of the best facilitators in the game over the last 3 years. And when you look at the numbers, especially when it comes down to big men, they have career years playing alongside James Harden, a la Clint Capella, a la Zubac. These guys have had career years because this guy is a master at the pick and roll. Brittany, we're talking about one of the greatest offensive players to ever play the game of basketball in James Harden. But Brittany, let me ask you a question. Put me up on the big screen, because I got to ask you and Sham something.
Yes.
I want to look at y'all.
Yeah.
Here's my question to you guys. What the hell is going on down there in Los Angeles with the Clippers? Why is everybody allergic to the Clippers? Is it a new disease that came out around the United States that we don't know about down there in Inglewood? Because I'm thinking about it. Paul George left, okay? Paul George left. And then all of a sudden we had the drama with CP3. And now we're talking about a Clipper team who has won 16 out of their last 20 games. Arguably has been the hottest team in the NBA. I just saw James Harden down at Arizona State watching the Arizona and Arizona State game, and they said he's been out for the last 2 games for personal reasons, and all of a sudden Shams at 1 o'clock in the morning Central Time dropped the news that James Harden won out. What is going on with the Clippers?
I'll turn the question back at you, Big Perk. Are the Clippers a team that, as currently constituted, for those who've not been following the season closer, they started terribly, but then they've gotten red hot of late. Are the Clippers a team, in your view, that right now, as currently constituted, or maybe with a move or two, could be a serious contender this year?
They can be. They can be. I really believe that, and especially the way that Kawhi Leonard has been looking of late. When you talk about Kawhi Leonard, Jordan, and the way he's been affecting the game on both ends of the floor, probably should have been an all-star this year. Some may argue that he got snubbed. But again, when you look at the production and how they've been how both of those guys been coexisting over the last 2 months, absolutely they're a piece away from being legit title contenders. I believe right now, if James Harden was fully invested with the Clippers and not worn out, their ceiling would be second round in the tough Western Conference. And that's a lot to say, especially from where they started from at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, so Shams, I'll let you do some digging into whether there's a disease there or not. We'll have a report on that a little bit later. In the meantime, let's talk about Giannis, because that's the big name that everyone is focused on. And this is a story that just sort of, it feels like it's sort of tiptoeing towards its conclusion, and it has whatever it is, 60 hours or whatever remains between now and the deadline to do it. What is the very latest on him?
Greeny, we're going to see if the end of this roller coaster is at the deadline on Thursday, or this roller coaster is extending into the summer. The Milwaukee Bucks have been sifting through the aggressive trade proposals from the Warriors, the Heat, the Timberwolves, and the Knicks. They made counteroffers as well. They've set a high price point. They want a young blue chip prospect as well as a surplus of draft picks. And so they've gotten combinations of all of those things, a potentially young blue chip player, multiple draft picks. They have not yet progressed to the point where clearly they've consummated a deal. They have decisions to make. Do they want to play this out before the deadline? Do they want to take this into the summer? Giannis will have just 1 year left on his deal next offseason. And at that point, he's going to have a lot of leverage to dictate where he wants to go. Do the Bucks do something before that point or not? And there's also a conflict in the second half of the year. Giannis is trying to play for a championship. The Bucks are angling more toward a lottery pick. So a lot of questions that Milwaukee executives and ownership have to answer this week.
I'm looking at these teams. I'm looking at the standings in Perk, Miami, Minnesota, the Knicks, the Warriors. I think a lot of people would be fascinated to see maybe Steph getting a player like that and trying to make one more run. Which of those teams could you see Giannis on making a real run this year, maybe making a run to a title this year?
Well, let me get straight to it, Greeny. First of all, Giannis wants to be in New York. He wants to be a Knick, okay? He wanted to be a Knick before the season started. That's why, he quietly behind the scenes told the Bucks in August that he wanted to go to the Big Apple. All the rest of these teams are secondary option teams that he would be willing to go to, but he wants to be in New York. But if I had to pick one and say to make a move right now, if I'm New York, I wouldn't touch it right now because they have one of the deepest team in the Eastern Conference.
Night yesterday.
And with this,
he's kind of mastered the art of sort of,
to the NBA Finals. But if I'm looking, the Timberwolves stands out the most to me because we're talking about Anthony Edwards here. We're talking about a guy that's having a career year, a guy that has been to back-to-back Western Conference Finals. You put Giannis Antetokounmpo alongside him, and it's going to be hell and hot water for the rest of the Western Conference.
Yeah, the Timberwolves are sitting there 8.5. Everyone in the West obviously is chasing Oklahoma City. The T-Wolves are right in that mix. They're currently sitting at number 5. All right, Perk, outstanding to see you, my man. We'll do it again soon. And Shams, obviously you will be jam-packed for the next 2 days, and we'll all be following breathlessly as we work our way to the NBA trade deadline. In the meantime,
season for $42.3 million. Regardless of the money, don't expect to get too much from Ty Lue if you ask him about the potential of a deal.
What do you make of the idea of anything involving James Harden?
Nothing. I can't comment on rumors. Sorry.
I'll rephrase it. What has James meant for you guys in LA since he's been here?
He means a lot. Yeah, he means a lot to our team, and we've seen it the last 3 years, so he means a lot.
Is that a guy that you would want to continue having past the trade deadline and be able to build towards a playoff run?
Who wouldn't want to have James Harden?
Respect his decision or whoever decision it is, and that's it. I mean, he's still gonna be my boy, and I trust the front office. So.
Let's have a little bit more energy than Kawhi and Ty Lue did there, Sam Quinn. How about that? Our NBA expert tapped in with us. And Sam, number one question for you is, why would the Clippers entertain this right now? I know they started awful. The Chris Paul situation happened. They were 6-21, but 15-5 since the Christmas break. That's the best record in the NBA.
Yeah, at the center of this right now is these Clippers' plans to have max cap space in the summer of 2027. James Harden right now playing at an all-star level. I would have had him on my team. He obviously didn't get picked, but his contract for next season is only partially guaranteed for around $13 million. He seems to want to get paid longer term. In addition to that, he's never won a championship. I know the Clippers are playing very, very well right now, but they're going to have to make the playoffs through the play-in tournament. I think he probably understands that even if you make it through, you get a first-round matchup with the Thunder, that probably doesn't bode very well for you. So right now, this is James Harden leading the way. I think the Clippers would have been open to keeping him, but he seems to be directing this towards a trade. So there are a couple of teams on the table. I think if James Harden can get somewhere that he thinks he can either get paid or put himself in a better position to get paid while trying to win, that would be his preferred situation.
So he's averaging 25 and 8 this season. Teams out there reported to be interested are the Cavs. Why would they make sense?
You know, it was kind of crazy when I first heard it, just because Darius Garland is a decade younger than James Harden. The more I think about it, the more it does make sense. Darius Garland has obviously had these durability issues. You know, last year in the playoffs, they win 64 games, but his toe injury really hobbles them. They get knocked out in the second round. He mostly hasn't been the same guy this season. He kind of bounced back a little bit earlier in January. Now he's been out since January 14th. The Cavs might be looking at this and saying, James Harden is more dependable in the playoffs. That's a sentence we don't say often, given his track record in the postseason, but at least they might feel like he could be healthy. He could help keep them in contention this year and next. But looming over this longer term for the Cavs is another financial storm coming in 2027. They're going to have to extend Donovan Mitchell at a 4-year, $273 million deal at that point. They might be looking at this and saying, Darius Garland is younger. We don't trust his health. We don't trust his durability. We don't want to extend him at that point. We're going to be too expensive to justify that. So what if we trade Garland now for somebody who can keep us in the championship mix? Then in a year or two, we're in a much easier position to pivot financially and, you know, make the savings that we need to make. They're in the second apron right now. They might get below before the deadline. They might not. So this could be financial for Cleveland as much as it is for the Clippers.
So let's show those standings again, because currently right now the Cavs, the 5th in the East. We know how good they were last year. 9 games above 500 right now. If you put Darius Garland away from the team, you insert James Harden, where do you see Cleveland in the East, and where can they compete?
Yeah, to be frank, there is not a single team in the East that scares me, right? The Knicks have been so up and down all year. The Pistons don't have enough shooting right now. Maybe they get a Michael Porter Jr. Maybe they address that at the deadline. For now, I don't know if I trust them to score enough in the playoffs. The Raptors, the Celtics, they feel more like regular season stories. The 76ers, I mean, their playoff history of tragedy speaks for itself. There's not a team in the East that I look at and say, they're unbeatable. We can't catch them. If you put James Harden in for Darius Garland and you assume that he is healthier than Garland has been this year, which is a pretty safe bet. James Harden very rarely gets hurt, and that he's as productive as he's been for the Clippers. Obviously, big men love James Harden. Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, he'll make their lives way easier. He's bigger than Darius Garland. That could help on defense, although obviously James Harden, no star defender in his own right. I think the Cavs could look at this and say, James Harden right now is just flat out a better player than Darius Garland. Making that swap would make us a better team, put us in a better position to potentially reach the finals. And look, we think the 3-4 best teams in the NBA might be in the Western Conference, but you only have to play one of them. You get to the finals, you know, maybe the Thunder get there and they're banged up. Maybe the Nuggets get there and they're banged up. It's only one 7-game series. Underdogs can win one 7-game series. Unlikely that they're going to win 3 or 4.
So if you're Detroit and you need shooting, why not try to kick the tires and bring in